So Charlie, what would you say are like the most basic steps of selling your home? Like if you had to break it down for someone for a big picture overview.
The first step of selling is usually it's conversation, obviously with the agent. And for us, the way that, I could say how we do it. Other agents may approach it differently. The real estate here in our area is very unique, and there's a wide range of ages, styles, renovation levels, etc. So for us, I prefer to see the house before we price it. So normally we go and meet with the client it could be as quick as 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the seller has lots of questions, so we stay as long as they want, obviously. But it's a quick in out. Get a good, clear picture of the home, take some notes while we're there, retreat, and then that helps us do a better analysis.
Yeah.
We then, would come back and obviously have a full conversation about marketing, pricing, strategy, and what their preferences are. From that stage, you're signing a listing agreement. And what's happening behind the scenes is typically a whole lot of marketing preparation. For us, we're building and preparing all these different, it could be brochures, it could be postcards, it could be social media advertising, and there's a lot of work in the back, video editing, all this stuff that happens in the background, of course, photography. So there's this work that gets done from when the listing is signed. There's oftentimes work getting done to the house, the painting, the floor refinishing, whatever, the repairs is all
happens
happening
in this period.
Yep, right before you sell. And so I think one thing most sellers don't realize too is that if you really want to do it well, and you want to hit the market with a polished piece of inventory that attracts the most money, gets top dollar, that takes time. That's partly marketing because you're deciding on how to present it to the world, and that does have an impact on value. And it's also preparation of the property during that stage, and there's a lot more time there than most sellers realize. I would give yourself months in that stage of cleaning, painting. Maybe you have a more perfect house and that's not necessary to the same level, but there's always something that's going to be done to get that house ready for market. The more time, the better.
So if someone, let's say, has a quote unquote turnkey house, I think people would argue whether or not turnkey is really a thing, but what types of preparation would that person need to make?
Probably more decluttering, perhaps
like tidying up.
Yeah. Are we, staging, more of a staging type approach where the home that needs it more in the cosmetic department is obviously going, where the painters are coming in and the handyman's coming in and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Landscapers, whatever, to prep that house for marketing. But assuming we did, and many houses, of course, here in Greenwich are really beautiful just to start. And so, for those people, we're just farther down the curve. I still think the more time you give yourself, the better. It's just allows the time for these things to happen. Contractors get backed up. They tell you it's going to be 2, it's going to be 4. No matter what, you always need more time in that stage is really what I'm trying to send home than I think most sellers realize. That often causes the home to be listed later than they expected, which if you're playing out a strategy and trying to time the market and trying to sell in a certain window so that you can get to where you're going, it all has a ripple effect. And it makes more sense to just have as much time as possible there from my perspective. I think we could do a better job marketing too. We just have a little bit more time. We have more brainstorms.
Yeah, to prepare.
Yeah, more
what
thinking.
Are the selling points of this house?
Time for feedback, talk to other agents, all of that. So the more time in that phase, to me, that's the better. So anyway, then all that is done. You're going active. From active, obviously, you've got showings to an offer. Here in Connecticut, once that offer is accepted, actually, I should say really here in the Gold Coast, because some of the state doesn't work the same way. But we have a period which is sometimes involving an inspection, sometimes just going straight to contract. But there's probably 10 days to 2 weeks of time where from where the offer is accepted to where it's actually fully under contract, legal written contract, which is most of the time done in our area by a lawyer, not by the agents.
So when the quote unquote offer is accepted, but there's no contract signed, is there paperwork solidifying that, or is it?
It depends on the town and the agent, how solid that offer is.
Okay.
It's going to be hard to address here because it's really nuanced on the unique situation.
Different town to town.
Different town to town, different even agent to agent preferences. And even sometimes, the two agents essentially come together to make an agreement. You could work with that same agent 3 times and perhaps come to 3 different agreements, depending on the flexibility of the seller or the marketing or something, whatever's going on with the house. So it really is. That's why I say it's case by case. So it's hard to really say.
Okay, that makes sense.
So after the contract, there's a waiting period usually. The buyer's doing their work either to solidify the mortgage, and even if there isn't a mortgage on the property, normally there's some buffer between you're getting ready, you're finalizing getting out of the house is really what it comes down to, working your way towards closing. The time frame there from offer accepted to closing is typically 6 weeks to 8 weeks, somewhere in that range, assuming a mortgage is needed. Even when there's no mortgage, it wouldn't be uncommon to have that same time frame, just because everyone needs time to make the move, get the house cleared out, all of that. Even if the house was, fully ready to go, in theory, you could sell in a couple weeks if there was no mortgage. But realistically, we're talking
especially if someone's living in the house.
Yeah, and it's always way more work than you think it's going to be to get out of the house. Yeah.